Welcome to Davey's Take. Today we're talking about Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, the long-awaited sequel to the 1988 classic. So Beetlejuice Beetlejuice takes place about 30 or 40 years after the original. Lydia has a daughter, there's some issues there's something going on with their family. I'll kind of just leave it at that. I'm a fan of the original Beetlejuice. I think it really showcases Tim Burton's weird imagination, and it has these really great set designs and some effects that hold up today. I mean, some are a little dated, but rewatching the film last week, I was surprised by how much of that film really holds up. It was very original, and it was in that era where Tim Burton would make really good movies. And now we're in an era where it feels like Tim Burton doesn't really make any good movies. And why I like the original film is that it's kind of unapologetic, that it's just a film with a bunch of bits and gimmicks, and I can actually appreciate that. But for me, that's also an issue because there's nothing that really got me super invested with some of those characters, and which is why I don't think it's like the greatest thing ever made, like some people do. So I was somewhat excited for Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. I just didn't want to be a bunch of member berries. I wanted some original gimmicks and bits. I wanted some great set designs. I wanted everything that made the original fun. And I can say for the most part, I did have fun with Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. And if you're a fan of the original, I think you're going to love this film. But like I just said, one of the reasons why you want to see a Beetlejuice movie is for all the gimmicks and the bits and the props and the sets and all of that. And it is flourishing here. Yes, a lot of the sets are the same from the original film, but they do feel so lived in, they feel alive, and there's a lot of new things they actually do. They kind of expand this world a little bit, and I actually appreciated that. And I know lately Tim Burton hasn't really made any films, and the ones that he's made haven't been great at all. But I gotta say, this felt like the first Tim Burton movie in a while where it felt like they let his imagination run wild and just do a bunch of crazy shit. And I think it works here for the most part. Now, I need the preference. My favorite Tim Burton films are the ones where he's allowed to do all the weird shit, but there's almost a committee, like there's a round table that will tell him what will work and what will not work. Because some of his movies in like the 2000s just got a little too out of control and just became a little too fucking weird. But I think here was actually a great balance of that, because there's a lot of absurd Tim Burton visuals in here that I think that's what fans are going to want to see when they see a Beetlejuice movie. But there's also not a bunch of horrible CGI in this film. Like, they dial back some of that stuff. Everything feels practical, everything feels real, and that's why I thought this film was a lot of fun. There's even effects here that don't look great, but it's on purpose. It's like they wanted the effects to look really weird. Almost feel like it's definitely part of that 1988 film. So I like that there's little details like that that are definitely thought out, and I just like the world that Beetlejuice is in. That's why that first film is so much fun, and that's why I think Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is fun too. But another reason why this film is fun and it works is because of Michael Keaton. I really appreciate that he's coming back as Beetlejuice, but he's not just phoning in that Warner Brothers paycheck. It seems like he actually cares to give it his all here. Like, it feels like he hasn't missed a beat from that original film, and he was fucking fantastic here. Also, Catherine O'Hara was amazing here. She was probably, besides Michael Keaton, the funniest character in this movie. She's great in the original, but here there's so much that she does that I just thought was so funny. And I also thought Willem Dafoe was a great addition to this universe. It seems like it fits way too well, and what his character is and what he does is just great. And something I can appreciate in this film that the first one doesn't really have is that it seems like there's an attempt to have character development, like real relationships there. Not saying that the first film doesn't have those relationships, but those relationships are kind of pushed to the side, and the movie completely focuses on those bits and gimmicks. There's points in this film where they really do try to focus on some of that character stuff, and I think it kind of works. It's also great to hear Danny Elfman do the score again. You just can't help yourself. You just get excited when you hear that theme again, and I'm just glad he's back. But those are all the positives I can give this film. It isn't perfect. I don't even like it as much as the original because, like I said before, I love how it just embraced what it was trying to be. And I know, I just said I appreciate them trying to do some character stuff here, but I have to say, there are points where it does kind of tank the pacing of this movie. Like, there's a point throughout, like, the second act of this movie where the film really slows down. But it does pick up like crazy in the third act. I mean, the third act of this film is like Beetlejuice fan porn. It's insane. And I do appreciate that there is a lot of originality in this movie with some of the bits and some of the sequences, but there are moments where it is a bunch of member berries, some lore building that did get a little irritating. And there's definitely some jokes that didn't land. I'm not just saying jokes, like sequences. Like, there's one sequence that's like 2 minutes long that I just didn't think that was funny, and it was almost just trying to call back to a way better sequence from the first movie. I also appreciate that this film tried to have a bigger threat compared to the first one. The first one definitely has a threat, but this film almost tries to have like a bigger threat. Kind of remind me in like Top Gun Maverick, where there's actually a threat that they're trying to stop compared to the first Top Gun. Here there's a threat that they do introduce and try to make the plot a little more interesting, but some of it is forgotten and some of it does feel a little forced, and there's not much payoff there. But in the end, even though I didn't think this film was anything spectacular, I did have a fun time. And I really do think if you're a ginormous fan of the first film, because I know there people are that love the first film, I think you're going to adore Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. But for me, someone who appreciates that first film, has a lot of fun with it, but's not totally in love with it, I still had fun with Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. I just don't think this film is gonna win people over that aren't really fans of the original, or people who haven't even seen the original. I definitely think it's a fun, solid time, but I don't think it's anything that's gonna completely blow you away. I'm gonna give Beetlejuice Beetlejuice 6.5 Davey Daves. I really need to stop saying Beetlejuice. I feel like I'm saying it wrong. It just sounds weird. It's almost like a tongue twister for me. So I'm glad I can stop saying that. And there's a scene at the end of the movie that I thought was really funny. It was kind of shocking, and I thought that was great too. So, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. Let me know what you guys thought of it once you've seen it. I'm curious to hear. And thank you so much for watching. Click here to see more of Davey Dave Sticks.